Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Ask an Agent Anything, and we are here officially live for the very first time, but our seventh conversation. And we are so excited to be more engaging with our community and be able to answer the true questions that you guys have on your mind and the topics that you want us to chat about. Today, we're going willy-nilly to figure out this live streaming thing.
Right.
But just so you know, my name's Corey Ann Wright. I am an agent. I am also a wholesaler, and I'm here with the fabulous Renee. Hi, Renee.
Hello, Miss Corianne. Yes, like Corianne, I am a real estate agent here in the great city of Angels, Los Angeles. Have been for the last 18 and a half. I want to make sure I get that in there. 18 and a half years as a residential real estate agent, but operating more like an agent investor. So that's a lot of the topics that you and I are going to cover in here. And I'm excited. Today's going to be really good. It is a little bit feeling like the energy is a little bit scattered today. Don't want to get out and too far into the weeds on anything astrological, but it's definitely a little bit scattered today. And we'll probably talk about some time management stuff because I'm feeling a little bit scattered this week for the right reasons.
We need to talk about that. I was actually on the phone with an agent yesterday who was like, I'm taking some time with my family today. It feels like my whole life imploded over the weekend. And that was one of my feedbacks. I was like, I think everybody's is this weekend. It's not just you. And that made them feel better. So we've got to, nudge our agent friends and let them know it's okay. Some of it's everybody, not just them.
I'm really glad you're saying that. And, for those of you who are watching that are not quite the type A personality and just like barreling through everything, remember that in life, right? We are all in a relationship to something, people, places, and things. We're always in a relationship to it. But of course, if we bring it back to sales, bring it back to real estate, and bring it back to business, is that real estate specifically is a relationship based business. And I don't want to step over what you just did. The gesture of what you just did was to really hear, not just listen, but hear the person that was saying, vulnerably, like, my life is having a minute and I really need to come back to my bases. I need to come back. That person's base may have been their family. I'm making an assumption here, right? And to really
Mm.
acknowledge that. And so not because you have to, but because you want to, and knowing that we're here to create more and deeper relationships with the right people. And I think just that moment that you took with that person, albeit they're an agent and you're an agent, right? But you took the time to actually speak with them and to them as a friend. And so from a deepening of a relationship perspective in life, as well as business is a relationship based, business, real estate is a relationship based business, that you want to actually give yourself those moments of just pausing and stopping and really hearing people, so that you don't have to barrel through something on your agenda to get a question answered, because that could be
Mhm.
answered later in the day. It could be answered tomorrow. And we're all just human beings out here having a human experience. So what you said was really profound, albeit subtle. And I wanted to go a little deeper on that in terms of deepening relationships. And that's something you do really well. You've said that before. So are you doing that just out of the goodness of your heart, or did you actually have any internal dialogue that said, oh, this person is kind of shifting gears and going down a different lane and being vulnerable with me? Here's how I want to show up in the conversation. Like, say a little bit more about your sequence of thoughts during those moments.
I'm so glad you asked, because in a lot of ways, there's a reason I was willing to give that time and energy to this person. I don't give that to everybody all the time, because if I was willing to bring myself to the emotional state or the place of empathy for everybody I'm on the phone with, I would be emotionally exhausted after half of my day, not not being able to get through the
Right,
rest of it.
right.
So, this particular agent deserves that time from me because they've already given me their time. And what that means to me is that they're out there actively doing the work. They are calling sellers every day, they're showing up to listing appointments, and they're taking me, proverbially, like, along with them for the ride. So anytime they're going to a listing appointment that they think might be a little, dungy or have something gross about it, they're going to let me know before they even go to that appointment. And that for me is VIP agent, like
Mm.
VIP, somebody I want to work with in the future. And because of that, I'm more than happy to be there, empathetic and interested in what's going on in this person's life. They deserve my time and attention. They're somebody I truly, honestly want to do a lot of business with. So, first is kind of a mental prioritization of time to energy and who I'm giving that to. And I'm not the best at that. It's something I'm having to learn because everybody is my best friend. I mean, honestly, I love meeting people. I love giving
Mhm.
them my energy, and that's something I've had to learn how to prioritize, kind of take a step back and see who do I give that to. And I felt really excited and happy to be there with this person. And literally that night, like 9 p.m., he texted me an address that was off market. So, like,
There you go.
happy to build you up, especially because then you go back out there and you do work and we can make money together.
And the other adage is people like to do business that they know, like, and trust. And I say it
Mhm.
slowly for that reason, that they know, they like, and they trust. That's all of us. I think we can go back into neuroscience and how we're all programmed. Are you going to be the one that is friendly? Are you going to be the one that hurts me? Right. And so we're always kind of assessing through this filter, and just coming from a very genuine place. And you have a very approachable and kind spirit. So people really feel that. You lead with a lot of empathy and openness. And something important that you also said for the audience to really hear for themselves is boundaries, right? So you don't have those
Mhm.
energy leaks, you who's listening and you, Corianne, because it's very easy, especially in real estate, when you don't necessarily know when your next paycheck is coming. You don't necessarily know when the next deal is happening until you get that momentum, or maybe you have a team and all these things that come down the pike. But if you're starting out, or you're starting out in a new lane, like some of the agents that are listening here may want to incorporate more of a relationship with investors. And so how do you do that? And where do you put your energy? And so it's really checking yourself for the boundaries, the energy leaks, and then just as some prioritization, who gets your time. We are in an
Mhm.
attention economy right now. We've shifted something totally different. Everything is coming at us. Look at me, buy this, look at that. And if you don't consciously turn things off or put things at bay, there's a lot
Mhm.
of work subconsciously that is happening on us, not necessarily for us,
Mhm.
but on us. And so you've got to really take
Mhm.
that opportunity to decide where are you going to put your energy. And this is such an imperative topic, especially when you're working for yourself. There's nobody going to tell you to stop in this country. We are a country of workaholics. And it's like, how
Yeah.
much faster and how much more can you produce, especially if you're basically a solo agent. And so making sure that
Mhm.
you're, loving that yourself and putting those boundaries in place will allow for more relationships and deeper relationships, and those times and space like you gave, to that agent. And of course, then, whatever the bonus is, they sent you something, right? You can't control that, but they probably very
Right.
consciously, unconsciously thought like, oh, Corianne was really listening to me and heard me. And you know what? I know, like, and trust her, and I want to do business with her. And that's hence, what came down the pike was that opportunity later in the day.
For me, the game has always been depth over breadth, and I'm constantly trying to expand my breadth. You and I had a conversation about KPIs in general recently, and funny enough, because this is our first time going live,
Mhm.
that one actually isn't posted yet. It's going to get posted sometime between now and next Tuesday. But in general, we were talking about KPIs, and I'm trying to get better in numbers, but never at the expense of the depth that I can bring to the actual players that are doing business. And so when an investor comes into this world and they get, started and interested in reaching out to agents and finding their first property, I think a lot of the time it is breadth because you're trying to find your tribe, but you're running across a bunch of people who are also not doing work, who are looking for somebody else to do work for them. And so you're running across a lot of maybe buying agents or agents that aren't actively after their own listings. And I used to take care of all of them with that
Mm.
same lovey-dovey coddle energy until I started to realize, wait, there are people that are working as hard as I am, and then there are people who are not. And to some extent, not only do I have to find my tribe emotionally and energetically, but I have to find my tribe of workaholics, of people who are out there to expand their family's wealth, and like those are my people. And so as soon as I started to realize, oh, there is a difference in type of agent, that they're out there with their own independent business too, and some of them aren't working and some of them are, helped me to decide. It just helped me prioritize. And this guy quite literally is marked VIP on my CRM. And on top of that, I take extensive notes on this guy. I know when his kid's birthday is every year. I know what age they will turn each year because obviously that's the most important thing. I know his
Mm-hmm.
favorite taco spot. And that's because we're on the phone so often and he's just dropping things like little tiny things. Oh, yeah, I'm at my favorite taco shop and this is my favorite order. But yeah, here's the property I want to talk about. And I'm over here going, favorite tacos.
That's so good.
Because those
Oh,
are
what have I
things
told you?
that bond us.
Yeah.
Right, right, right. The people I care about, I want to take care of. And you and I have had conversations of how people have blown us away in the last month and a half with little tiny things, little moves where you're like, wow, I can't believe I was thought of in that way. And I want to be the disher of that. Like I'm out here to serve some moments where people are like, dang, I was thought of. It's such a good feeling. And then on top, raising their energetic levels, and they can go out there and get me another deal because they're in that place. So um, take that and
It's
leave that,
so good.
whatever you
It's
want.
so good. Yeah. And it's true. This conversation, it's beautiful, right? Because you and I have a bit of an age gap. So when I was coming up and even when I started in real estate, it wasn't as much of, I guess you could call it a woke conversation. That's not my favorite word, but we'll just categorize it as that. People that are a little more attuned, it was always squirreled away into the yoga rooms or some retreat or maybe a guru that somebody was following. And now it seems to be much more of a common conversation that at least people in my world, we're moving into this. How can I serve myself? While and before I serve other people, it's like filling your glass first. And I've learned the hard way. I'm a Gen Xer, some of that last kind of vestige of generation that my parents were just work, work, work until you retire. And their parents were work, work, work until you die. And so I'm like, once removed from that mentality on top of being an entrepreneur. And later in my life, I've had to, I guess you could say but had to learn that that is not a way of being. That's a very masculine energy. And I just say that in terms of energy. That's not a sexist comment, but just it's a very masculine energy, that doer, thing. And us as women, we know when to turn it on. We're most likely very good at multitasking, right? Going back to having kids and, cooking and all the things, right? But at what expense? And so I think the question, and I'll speak for myself, being I enjoy that part of being, a woman or my human beingness. And then how can I better serve myself so that I can be more attuned to the people around me? Because if I know what I want and what works for me, then I'm more apt to attract those people. And so it's another little, rabbit hole of a conversation about what you were saying is, what is it that I know I like? I like to listen to people's details and make notes so that I can maybe now with all this technology, send that guy his favorite taco stand for dinner one night to his house or to an open house. I mean, imagine that. And so guys, that goes back to, deepening relationships. And it isn't always just about business or that you're going to get something from it. I mean, I know that's a reciprocation, but who can you be to be memorable, and who can you be so that people will know, like, and trust you more? And it's these little subtleties that things like AI and just doing mailers over and over again, or, the old traditional kind of context, that is always going to differentiate yourself. And it's so much easier to do that. You can send somebody, like the other day, a good friend of mine, she sent me a bottle of tequila that was actually delivered to my house. I mean, you literally don't have to leave your house, right? But I was so floored that I hugged the guy that delivered it. I was so excited. Like, oh my God, I got a present at my house. It's like Christmas every day on the internet. So, remember that's how well you can treat people. So I just dropped you a hint. Maybe you'll send him his favorite tacos on Uber Eats or something.
I only took that note down for that reason because it's a habit of mine anytime I have closings that the agent and the title company get a gift. And I'm trying my best not to make that just flowers. Sometimes it's just flowers, sometimes it's something else like donuts. I recently actually had to cancel a contract that we talked about, and I haven't done this, but it's like floating in my brain and it keeps slapping me. So I have to follow through at some point. But I just want to send him some donuts with a little note that says, "Do not give up on us."
That's perfect. I love that. That's great. Are
Um,
you just going to send them plain old donuts like Krispy Kreme, or is there a fancy place nearby?
oh, that's a great question. That's something I have to figure out virtually because this is my
Oh, Florida.
Florida
Okay.
office.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I like taking good care of them and making them excited when I bring them a contract, right? Um, that's a part of taking care of even the seller is that I have such a good relationship with my title company that when they see my stuff come through, that they're acting on it in a proactive way, which helps me get to the closing table faster. So, I mean, it all circulates back. And I think in a
Mhm.
lot of ways that's why I'm in this business is I want to be rich to be a giver. Like in a lot of ways,
Mm.
I'm like, if I could just sprinkle gifts everywhere, I would probably do that. So want to get to the place where I'm not only taking care of my family in those extraneous ways, but everybody I know. Um, Cheers to real estate for that.
That's so good. And this, I don't, we started out like we weren't really 100% sure of the topic. So this is a nice smorgasbord, but I think this is a good place to start of just who are you being and how are you best listening to the people that you're interacting with on a daily basis. And that goes
Mhm.
for all equities of your life, right? You could be at the grocery store. I know when I go, there's a little grocery store here called Trader Joe's. They have them around the country. I don't know the audience who's listening if they're in their area, but whenever I am in the Trader Joe's or in the grocery store or whatever, I always engage with the person who's checking me out, and I say like, "How are they treating you today? What's happening?" And it's just like people just get so wowed in a way by that because no one's really interacting with them. They might say hi and the niceties of just pleasantries of being out and socially with people, but to really engage with people, it is an art that is being sort of on life support at this point. I look around and
Mhm.
I think to myself, who's really engaging with me? And it's not often. And when people do engage like that with me, I'm so taken aback. So be that beacon, be that person. If it calls to you, if your personality is such, if you want to actually engage with people, be authentic regarding it, and then listen for those little details like Corianne's talking about, and possibly do make notes. Because there's one thing I think we all appreciate is getting gifts. People just appreciate getting a gift. And so if you
Mhm.
get a gift that actually correlates to something that they may have said or talked about, and then people are just floored by that. And it's so fun. It is fun to give and to see
It
people's
is.
reactions. So I love that you said to just sprinkle gifts everywhere. You'd be like the tooth fairy meets an elf, one of Santa's helpers.
Well, and I'm not in the place where I give as much as I would like. And I think one thing I have to remind myself is I'm in this place of growth and getting to the kind of business and income I want to be in that place is that I can do that just based off energy, off of the gift I can give people by how I show up. Because I think in a lot of ways, like I think of myself in that Trader Joe's line, which by the way makes me just jealous because I am 3.5 hours away from a Trader Joe's. I'm not getting there anytime soon. And man, I want some cinnamon cat cookies. Like that's
Oh,
the treat from
wait a minute.
Trader
Let me write
Joe's.
that down.
Um,
Cinnamon cat cookies. It's from Trader Joe's. All right. Noted.
oh my goodness. But in the meantime, so when I show up in that line, there are some days where I don't give that energy to the person across the table, and I can feel kind of like my light and energy being
Mm.
internal and me being protective of it. Maybe I've been on the phone with a lot of hard people or something like that. But in the times where I can be open with that light and just be like bring them the energy that maybe I didn't get on the phone and really let that come through, it's just like a gift in many ways.
Yeah.
Like it is a energetic boost to be around those that are energetic and sometimes maybe you'll get negative in response because they've been going through a rough day, but I've always heard and I love this thought that the most energy, the most energetic output will win. So if somebody is
Mm.
putting out more energetic output in it being a terrible, nasty, horrible day, they could win over me if I don't have enough energetic output on this is a beautiful day, aren't we grateful? I love this. So um to some extent that's just a blech of my visuals that I have when I'm trying to give and get energy.
Mm.
But it's a
Mhm.
nice reminder if we're not in the place of like giving the kinds of gifts we want to our families and friends, we can do it just out of giving a thoughtful note or some love or an energetic voice note, something like that.
And remember, the great equalizer is time. So if you are apt or willing to, even in a short time at a grocery store line, or if a friend is really in need, to lend your ear, lend your beingness. lend your
Mhm.
space so that that person can emote or just be heard. And oftentimes you don't have to be a problem solver. People are not asking you to be their coach. People are just needing to be heard. They're dying to be heard, literally. I think there's people that are just in a state of loneliness. Loneliness is like an epidemic all of a sudden. They're writing books about
Mhm.
it and articles and things I'm seeing pop up, probably more of a post-pandemic, which is
Mhm.
kind of an indicator of where people's fragility maybe has been. You can be alone together. You can be in a relationship, a marriage, a intimate relationship, your family, friendships, and actually feel alone. So this is part of what we're talking about here, is to just spread that momentary hope or glimpse that that person is validated and being seen as a fellow human being on this planet, and the reciprocation is just love, because
Mhm.
really all roads lead to that, right? Love or fear. And so what wolf are you going to choose, right? It's inevitable that there's love and fear, and you can go down the rabbit hole of lots of adjectives on either side, and which one are you going to choose, and whom are you going to be in that moment. And where this is circling back to businesses, especially in real estate, is when we're in a transaction, whether it's with an investor, whether it's traditional retail, we are all in this with other people and personalities, and we're all just trying to get to the finish line. So really, who are you going to be? How are you going to communicate? What are your standards? What are your values? Who are you? And I asked the audience to really do some soul searching around that. Like, one of my values is clear, concise communication in real time. So if there's a problem,
Mhm.
we're going to talk about it. Or if I have a perceived problem, if I have an intuition that I'm not making things up, but if I have an intuition, let's just say based on my experience being in real estate, I'll contextualize it, right? It goes for all
Mhm.
equities of my life. But if I'm in a transaction and I can foresee something, I have an intuitive hit that something's going to happen, I'm going to say
Mhm.
something. It's like, see something, say something. It doesn't have to be nasty. It doesn't have to be over the top. We're not, instigating a fight, but you want to be inquisitive. And that is the beautiful thing about experience. So that, there are patterns. And so when you start to see something, you're like, okay, I'm going to say something. But for those of you who are newer, what it would be is your intuition. You might not be able to point
Mhm.
to something, but you're going to get that weird niggle. And so I would recommend that you have a conversation with whomever it is, title company, escrow, the other agent, so you can get ahead of
Mhm.
something. Because when you manage expectations in a transaction, it goes way smoother. So you're two steps ahead to say, this might happen or that might happen, or you're the gatekeeper, because that's really why you're getting hired. You're a part-time psychologist and the gatekeeper. Is this going to
Mhm.
forward? If I say something to the client, is that going to forward it? Or is it just amongst the agents? Because all we're trying to do is close this deal and have people left empowered that they made the right decision about purchasing or selling their property. That's it.
Yeah.
So the more you know yourself, and the more that you can, be all the things that Corianne and I are talking about, it's not way out woo-woo stuff. It's actually
Mhm.
in conjunction with knowing all the particulars and the logistics of selling a home. But really, this is
Mhm.
an emotional sale for most people. Now, when you're talking about the investors, they're very data driven, they're very bottom line, but they are emotional in another way. And don't let it
Yeah.
fool when things go south, they get real emotional. And how they typically go is they yell and get mad and want to hire
Mhm.
lawyers. Whereas traditional buyers and sellers are leaning on us more to help them make the
Yeah.
decision. But either way, it's very, very contested. And so you want to be that grounding force. And how you do that is what we're talking about here. And
Mhm.
do it with the little things in the day. Do it in the Trader Joe's line. Do it with your, significant other. Do it with a friend. And then when the big things are at stake, you can have that familiarity to say, oh, I've kind of been here before. How am I going to be in those moments? And that is partially the difference between why somebody is going to not only know you, but like you, and then trust you. And that's the basis for business: knowing, liking, and trusting. And that's the basis of a solid relationship. Who are these people that you're getting into a relationship with, albeit for 30 or 45
Mhm.
days? But that's what we're doing out here. So, yeah, Corianne, I mean, what do you do to sort of ground yourself? You said what you're doing when you're in the line, but what are you doing at all if you're kind of off kilter?
It's so funny. You just asked my question to you.
All
But
right.
I have a few things that work for me. One is a lap around my house. I quite literally just there's a circle around my house, so I take that lap. It's maybe a quarter a mile, maybe. And that allows me to just be outside and be reminded why I do the work that I do. A few other things I have is I'll quite purposely go and just play with my dogs for a little bit and get most of mine has to do with being outside. You know, there's a reason I live out in the middle of nowhere, and it switches for me when I do let myself go outside, and that helps me recenter. And also, I've been reading this really incredible book that talks about these needs. Like when we kind of recognize, oh, I need something, like I need a break from this energetically, that a lot of the times the female or more feminine side of the brain is going to respond later. We're generally caretakers who try to push our own needs to the side. And I noticed that in the need for me to go outside is that quite often I'll be like, no, no, I'll do that later. I'll do that later until it's dark outside. And I never went out and said hi to my chickens. And that's where I find my energy and my purpose and my excitement. So in a lot of ways, I'm personally trying to get better at that and let a quick lap refresh me as quickly as possible and come back instead of pushing it to the side. And I would hope that that keeps my energy at a more even keel, but it's still a practice for me.
Oh, and it's an awareness before the practice, so to speak. So
Hmm.
it's listening to that internal state. I know for me, I'm a very, very focused person, and I like to be efficient and get it done. And I tell you, there's just always going to be something in the inbox. So for me, I actually have working hours, and I also know that there are breaks that I get to take, just like as if I were an employee, because I'm the employee of my business, which is
Mm.
something I hope the audience hears, because sometimes I think this entrepreneurial, it's like this fantasy land of no one's going to tell me what to do. But guess what? You got to tell yourself what to do. You are your own boss. And
Mhm.
it just doesn't work to not work. And so having a schedule and being time managed is really important, because you're just going to get off kilter. I've been doing this for too long, and I've been an entrepreneur for longer, and I've just walked every avenue of it. And I still do. There are days, I think it was last Monday, I don't know what came over me, but I couldn't focus. I was just
Mm.
like this kid in preschool, where they used to sit you down and like have to do naps, and I was all jittery. That was me. I'm like, I don't want to take a nap right now. So against my own better judgment in that moment, I just went outside and went for the walk. It's like I had like a dog that hasn't gone outside in a day, and they get all the zoomies. I call them pent up zoomies. That's what I was. I had to take myself for a walk. So we have those days. But anyway, that's like the extreme. But I think on the day to day, it's knowing, what is going to continue to fill your cup a little bit at a time. And for you, it's going outside, going for a walk. And for the audience that doesn't know, you live on a ranch in this beautiful environment that, I don't know, it's just like 40 acres. How much, what do you live on?
85 acres.
Oh my God.
It's
85
big.
acres. I don't even know
Big
what
stuff.
that is in LA. That's like half of LA.
Oh, so there's a block. That's probably a block in
It's a
LA.
block. Yeah, right. It is.
Yeah, and the
Uh,
funny thing is I don't utilize much of that. We're probably like our actual homestead is on about 10 of those acres.
wow.
And yeah, like I want to be able to walk even more of my property, and I don't take that time very often. So I've been working those things more into my schedule as imperative instead of
Mhm.
just it would be nices. I think so often, especially the female brain, and I'm making a distinction. So to our audience who might be like, I function that way too, and I'm male or whatever it might be. There's no like judgment or placement into category. It's something I'm learning that's helping me communicate with my husband better, and a lot of it has to do with psychology and brain working of feminine and masculine. And so please don't take anything from this as rock solid. It's just more of things that I'm learning even about myself, and the would be nices happens in my brain all the time. Oh, it would be nice to do a pedicure. Oh, it would be nice to do this. Oh, it would be nice. And those always end up in a basket of self-care things that I don't do for
Mhm.
myself until I'm at the point of I don't like myself. Why don't I like myself all of a sudden? Oh, I haven't done any of the things that I actually like, or any of the things that actually take care of me. And often I see, for example, my husband, he'll have one of those and he takes care of it almost instantaneously. He's hungry. He's not waiting for 2 hours to go grab lunch for himself, he's getting lunch incredibly quickly. And then all of a sudden he's back to what he should or wants to be doing. And personally, I'm like, I need more of that in my life. If
Mm.
this is something that I recognize I need to energetically put myself back where I can focus and go hard, then I need to schedule that sucker. It doesn't mean it has to be right now. It doesn't mean that it can be an excuse where I can walk away from my previous commitments, because following through on commitments is so important. And also, that sucker needs to land on my calendar somewhere and become a priority because I am a priority.
Oh, that's a mic drop. I am a priority. That, the audience, I'll just let that soak in for a minute, because we are a priority. And, a lot of us were latchkey kids growing up, which means we didn't really have an adult figure that was present in the home when we got home. So we had to fend for ourselves. And on one hand, that made for a lot of self-sufficiency. Ask me how I know. And number two is there really wasn't anybody to bounce anything off of. It's like I spent an inordinate amount of time in my head. And so I guess on one hand, if it was just incredibly instinctual, like I am hungry, like your husband, okay, I am hungry, like that's on the hierarchy of needs, that's lower on the hierarchy of needs, right? I should feed myself. But man, just from the emotional context, it's been a long road and it goes hand in hand. So even though you're saying, okay, my husband, I'm hungry, that is a basic need that's fulfilled, but where else is going to fill your cup? And so I just put out there kind of for this week, for today's topic is what is going to fill your cup, or, what things, but maybe just start with one thing. What is going to fill your cup? And do that repeatedly, and do it with a loving heart, do it with a conscious mind, and just see viscerally how your body is reacting to that. And this is all about neuropathways, because we're habitual. We've been doing one thing one way, and then we wonder, well, wait a minute, I haven't filled my cup. Why is there self-sabotage? Why is there self-flagellation? Well, it's because it's a habit. And so actually doing the thing that's going to make you happy, and actually feeling elated or joyful or any of the positive, affirmations while you're feeling that, sometimes guilt comes in, because it's like, well, wait a minute, I've been doing this for so long. I've been taking care of myself for so long. And then I take care of other people because that's how I get the validation. But who's taking care of you? And then you feel weird and guilty about it. Well, it's a neurosynapse that needs to get rewired and refired so that you can actually settle into it and basically be because I'm worth it. And it's so much easier said than done, but it's the how of it. You can't, I guess you can pray it away, but you do need those inspired actions so that you have your own proof of concept to say, yeah, I am worth it. I am going to go walk around my house for a block or two or a half an hour, or just go. For me, sometimes I just go outside and I just stare into the sky because it's so beautiful in Southern California there's beautiful clouds. It just rained the other day, and I just kind of be a kid again, not necessarily have a plot of grass to lay in, but just be there, like kind of be with nature and see what comes up for me, and just, let all that stuff go. And kind of like for guys, it would be like, leave it on the field, right? A coach might scream that. For me, it's just like, leave it outside. I just leave it outside. So outside is not just going for a walk. Outside to me is recalibrating where I'm at in the day. And that is my version of self-care, and it's free. I don't always have to go and spend money to do something. So that was a long answer, but it's so important, I think, for people to really stop this and re-listen to it, and then consider what's going to work for you and go at it, implement that and be consistent with it so that you have your touchstone for the day. Because there's nothing worse than literally working yourself to the grind and then almost having a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
Ask me how I know.
Right?
Yeah.
That sounds like a whole nother episode.
Yeah, I was 28 years old. I worked for years and years and years and worked myself to the bone, and no one said the otherwise, because we live in a capitalistic society that says, oh, she's working faster, harder, there'll be more production, until my body just basically almost gave out. I was almost hospitalized for it. So talk about, like it gets you to that point. That's not meant to be dramatic or a victimization. It's just fact. And so it kind of scared me straight, if you will, to say, okay, I do need to put myself first in not a lopsided equity. We all have to work and make money, but how can we do that and incorporate that into our new society? That's the question. Yeah.
Do you have anything for me, that's like the hard reset button, basically, is like to walk outside and to move my body, and sometimes that looks like music and dancing,
Mhm.
sometimes it looks like just being a weirdo outside with my chickens, and also, sometimes I shouldn't be taking that break, like, I shouldn't be walking away yet from the place that I need to glue my butt. Do you have anything that you utilize to keep your butt in the spot that you want?
I do. 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock.
Mm,
So I will work from about 8 in the morning. 9 o'clock is really when the calls start to come in. So I'll already be working. So it's a little bit more of a quiet moment. And this is already on top of having had a morning routine, which is probably another conversation for another day. But my morning routine is really slow. I'm not one of these that jams it out at the gym. Mine is, at meditation, quiet, everything's quiet. Like that's me. I
mm,
do the jamming later in the day. So about 8 o'clock as the day starts, 9 o'clock is when the phones start really coming. That's when the fire hose gets turned on. So from 9 until 12, I'm very focused and I'm literally working. And so I can do about 2 to 3 hours of work. And the other time in there, now we're talking about time management. So the other time in there is like pee breaks, like getting up from my chair and going somewhere. That might take 5 minutes. So I think there's studies on this. It's like work for a solid 45 to 50 minutes and then take, a 5 or 10 minute break. The brain
mhm,
can't actually just work for more than about 2 hours straight. So that's my 3 hours. You see what I mean? So it's not another hour break, but it's stuff that's in there. So maybe I'm working for about 2.5 hours straight. Then at
mm,
least from a 12 until 1, I will eat something. I will take a break. I'll check in with myself. If I need to go outside for an extended amount of time, I at least have that in my books. Sometimes I only take a half an hour break and then I come back in and I'm kind of like making it up in places. And then by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I just know I got to go outside again. And that's actually when I go for a walk, because when I
okay,
come back, I do another probably 2 hours worth of work, or I'll do it later in the evening. So for those of you who are interested in working with investors, I will call the flippers after about 4 o'clock. They're usually more available after 4 o'clock because they're on sites working a lot of times, so they won't pick up their phone in the day. So that's my time block for that. So it's still a full day. I'll say 8 to 6, most days. And if I feel like I've really slacked during the week, I'll make it up on a Saturday. I'll
mm.
just kind of take those hours and I'll work a Saturday. So I'll work 6 days a week. So I won't kind of BS myself if I know that the work hasn't gotten done. That's my
What
free
would
day.
you say, and I'm asking for a friend,
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
person who I have a very, like, similar schedule, but what would you say to my friend who likes to open their computer at 7:30 PM quite often?
I would
Like,
say
do you
that
have that impulse?
I don't anymore. Um, I would say that a couple of things. One is I'm not the best at this because there's a lot of tools and things that I need to and want to replace in my home. But all of this sort of incandescent light and fake light and blue light that's coming off of a computer is really, really taking its toll on our health as human beings. And
Mm,
so for those of you who just can't, or you're impulsive and you're in a house full with family and other personalities, um, I would say a couple things. One is if you're impulsive to do it, then maybe only schedule it, have it scheduled for a certain amount of time and then turn it off. Or if you're the kind of person that just likes to work late at night but not in the morning, then be okay with that. Pick that. But I think that you're asking me like it almost sounds like, well, I'm not getting enough done, or I feel like I have to clear out my inbox every day and this is the impulse that's there. I would ask you to check underneath. It's not the action so much of the 7:30 at night that you're opening the computer, but what question, why are you doing that? What is not
mm,
being fulfilled that you're doing that? And to go there. Is there a self-worth question? Is there a no one's coming question? I have to do it all myself question? Like what is, and
mm,
do some writing about that and keep going down that rabbit hole. Because
mm,
what I would want to see anybody who asks me that question is, it's not about stop it. It's not about stopping the behavior. It's about understanding why you're doing it. And then when you
mm,
get to at least a perceived bottom of something or a little deeper on the subject, then you have more of a command of why you're doing it. And then you can make a more empowered decision about the fact that you want to open the computer at 7:30, not that you have a compulsion to do it. That's different. You're
Yeah.
empowered to do it, not compulsive around it and being almost reactionary to it, because that has a little bit of a addictive twang to it. And we want to be careful about that. We all have them. It's not just drugs and alcohol. Where is it
Mhm.
that we are compulsive and addictive to certain things, and what is
Mhm.
driving that? And then get at that and then decide, do I want to continue doing that action, or am I just hurting myself? So that would be my long answer to you.
No, I love that answer. And it really aligns with some of my own experimentation on what is going on in terms of the fact that I like to open my computer that late at night. But a big
Right.
part of that is that it's about keeping track of time for me, where I can see that, okay, maybe I got distracted between the hours of 1 to 4 and wasn't as productive in that focused period as I wanted to be, didn't accomplish a couple of things, and then all of a sudden I've got this fresh burst of energy to do it around 7:30. And sometimes that works well for me because my husband is an artist, he's a painter, and he's in the studio late sometimes because that's when he gets a big, energetic, creative push. And cool, I'm alone. I could watch TV, I could read a book, I could do my nails, or maybe I open my computer. And in a lot of ways, I always know, and this is the Capricorn only child in me, that I find my worth in the work that I can do. So if I'm sitting around and I got nothing else to do, my default is not going to be something I want or one of those it would be nices. It's going to be, well, what more work can I get done? What more
Yeah.
worth can I add to show myself that I have by doing something? And I'm trying to learn how to balance that by honestly just keeping track. Like, did I close my computer on time? Did I sit on the couch with my husband and only pay attention to my computer the whole time? Those like little things I've been just keeping a journal of and how that affects the people around me. And yeah, opening my computer that late is not ideal. I've been trying to close it by 7, and what that means is that the choices as to the work that I actually get done between that similar hour of 9 to noon that you have, I better focus. I better get the most important priorities done in that time, and that's what saves me from opening my computer later in the evening. A little bit of grace, a little bit of
Mm.
learning, a lot of actually watching yourself and asking some hard questions. Because believe me, I do not like owning up to or offering the fact that in a lot of ways my worth comes from what I can check off a list, But it's true. And I have to recognize that and have some grace for myself that, yeah, I'm a little bit of a workaholic. I like pats on the back. I like achievements. And that works for me in the time of 9 to noon, but shouldn't be working for me from 7 to 9.
It's a moment by moment thing. This is the beautiful part about being a human being, right? That we literally don't know what's coming. We think we know, we can plan it, we can put time management in the computer or in the calendar, and then, life shows up. So I'm of the opinion that we do those things so that we actually can keep the guards on the rail, so we go, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be doing this at this time. And then in other programs, they say being your own loving parent. Like, you really do have to be your own boss or your own loving parent and oversight yourself and say, well, what am I doing now? I said I was going to do this. Stay in integrity. I said I was going to do this at this time. And if you fall off or you get a weird phone call or, life happens, okay. And then assess your week. So assess the day and then assess the week. And for people like us, these earth signs, because I'm a Capricorn too, we are the workhorse sign, and it's the plight of that sun sign. But it's okay, because that's the lot we got, and it's also
Yeah.
how are you going to work with it. So that's what I hear you saying. To me,
Mhm.
it's all about recognition and awareness. So it's not like I don't have the compulsion to possibly open my computer at 7:30. I've just retrained my brain to say that I'm not doing that now. This is what I'm doing now. And
Yeah.
that's what works for me. So, like, for the audience, because they're probably in the business world very often, People like, say, Gary Vaynerchuk, if you know that name. Gary Vaynerchuk's one of his famous things is, if you have a 9 to 5 and you want to get out of it and you want to basically become your own boss and do your own either side hustle or your own business, is that when you get home from work, kiss your spouse, eat some food, and then you're on to almost like a second half of the day. That's a season. That's a season. So there are times when, I'm in a season right now because I'm making choices to take a 3-day weekend or almost and a half day weekend. And so I'm doubling down, not only because of that choice, so that I can clock out and turn my phone off, basically in my mind. And then know that I felt good about what I did in the time that I got there. And as well as I'm in a season, like I'm the only one here. Ain't nobody comment. I don't have a big team yet. I don't anything. So like, I do need to double down if I want the law of averages. The input should almost equal the output at some turning point. So I do need to make the calls and do the follow-ups. And as a restaurant analogy, I'm in the front of the house and the back of the house. I'm greeting the guests and I'm making the food. And it sounds like crazy making. First of all, anybody on the call, if you're not an entrepreneur, get ready, because that type of behavior is not abnormal. And where it becomes abnormal is when it's over time ad nauseum, because that becomes a new habit that is disruptive. And that's what happened to me in my 20s, albeit I was in my 20s. We're full of fire in our 20s. But if you don't, get a wake up call from your health then, because, that shut me down with my health, it will, like, something else is going to give. You just can't sustain that. So know that there's a season. Kind of give yourself that 90-day mark. I'm going to go hard for 90 days, like 4 months, 4.5 months. That's a lot, but do it. Stay committed. And then every day go, okay, did I take my walk? Did I go around my house 4 times? For me, did I go outside? Did I look at the sky? What did I do? Because you can't just be at your computer for 4 months either. So I don't know. That's a lot to ponder. We've really thrown out a lot here, but it's knowing what's going to work for you. Even if you're in a season, it's knowing what's going to work for you, because at the end of the day, there's always going to be more in the inbox. If it took you another 6 months to execute on a business because you didn't work 25 hours a day for 6 months and you did, 12 hours a day for a year, it's okay. Your wishes and dreams and goals are coming. They're just maybe not going to come exactly in the time that you'd want them to. And so have that grace, like you said before. So know thyself.
Both of those are reminders I need to hold in both hands, which is, I did make an agreement with my husband that we're going hard the first 2 quarters of this year in our careers and in our business. So I can give myself some grace on that. And then on the other side, it is also making sure to check in and figure out what's working and not sit in front of my computer, because my goals over the first 2 quarters have probably a lot more to do with whether I've worked out, whether I've created balance, whether I've had meditation, whether I've taken those walks, than just how many people am I calling every day. And that's because I'm looking to be something bigger than just a callaholic.
Yeah. And you'll know, and life will know, and you'll have those experiences for yourself. I mean, there were times in my career where I did everything that was expected of me on paper, and who I was being while I was doing it was almost resentful and exhausted. My beingness was resentful and exhausted. So even though I was making my numbers and banging out on the phone, I actually wasn't even getting the results. I mean, it's like, what is the point? So this conversation is so imperative and so important, because it really is, who are you being internally? Not all these positive affirmations that you're just going to tell yourself that's important, that's a part of it, but actually viscerally, from a stress level. Is your body in stress? Are you stressed in your body? Like, what do you need for you? And no one can answer that question. And so if you're grappling at all these extraneous things and wondering why it's not working, then maybe go in, go inside and go for that walk around your house, go for the walk outside and look at the sky and ponder that. It's not everything is just about work. And this is coming from 2 Capricorns. So we can do it. You can do it. Exactly.
Recovering.
Oh,
absolutely.
True.
Well, I have always been kind of the person that sits down, opens my computer, and just like as many tasks as I can cross off or get to, with no understanding of my own priorities, even within that. Just like reaction is almost like, I'm there fighting and reacting rather than actually prioritizing and taking control of my day. And that's been something that the more I'm looking to get better at that, at the prioritization, at is this the actual best use of my time? It it's allowing me to feel more and at ease and more in flow, and this is the right thing that I should be doing right now. And the reaction to that and showing up in that way is consistency.
Mm,
'Cause, oh, okay, I was able to actually get my work done from 9 to noon in regards to making sure all my outreach is out. Having accomplished that on this day means I'm gonna do it again tomorrow at this time. And something changed for me when I heard I can't remember who was the first person to say it. I wanna say it might have been Jamil. But the sentiment was consistency is the greatest gift that you can give
mm,
your family and yourself. And approaching that as consistency has only allowed me to just recognize that is a gift to myself, to know that I can trust that I will show up to my Peloton bike 3 times a week at least. And that trust in myself means that I don't have that little bug in the back of my head that's like, "You're not healthy enough.
mm.
You're not," like, whatever your bug is out there that's telling you or bugging you about going out to do something, that's probably something that needs to be consistent for you.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that you said that. Like for me, consistency breeds trust and trust breeds safety.
Mm,
That's how I see that. So I'm very consistent. If there's one thing about me, and I'm a very consistent person, especially in my work equity, and I show up and I'm there. And as for
mhm,
the audience, I host something called the virtual office, which is just exactly as it said. It's kind of a members only for our group, but people come in, they log in to a Zoom room, and they're basically on the Zoom working. And so it's meant to almost substitute when we went into an office and we were all working around each other and together, so that you catch that vibe of, oh, I want to stop doing what I'm doing. I'm going to go mess around and go make a sandwich right now when I shouldn't be. But I look over and I see four to five other people working. Uh-oh, let me get back to work. So it's a
mhm,
psychology. And I host that. So I am consistently in there every single day. So it's not my group. I am as equally, committed to the group as the group is committed to being there. So that consistency breeds trust. Well, if I go in there and, if it wasn't my room, but I wanted to go into the virtual office, then I know that Renee is going to be there. I know that other people are going to be there. So that breeds the trust factor that people are going to be there. And then there's the safety factor that someone's got my back. Somebody out there is going to believe what I say and, mean what I say what I mean type of thing. And so
mm,
that just goes all the way down to me, back down to like hierarchy of needs. Safety is a hierarchy of need. And as corny as that example may sound, I think when you
mm,
are consistent in business, we'll bring it back to business. People will then know, like, and trust you. Know you. Why? Because you're consistent in your messaging. Hi, I'm here. I want to do business with you.
mm,
Like you, because the thing came out, like you, because, they just kind of get a rapport with you, most likely in a cadence, and they've talked to you, or they're getting your text messages or whatever. And then that just
mhm,
breeds the trust. So the thing that's left off on there is safety. So if someone does want to do business with you, it's not only do they know, like, and trust you, they do all that under the umbrella of safety. Like, this person will take care of me. And to me, that's the distinguishing factor why anyone will want to do business with anyone in particular, because at the end of the day, we're all pretty much on a level playing ground. We have the same disclosures. We have, the same essential access to information. It's like, why does anybody choose me or choose you to do business with? It's because it's who they resonate with. And that's a nice baseline to start your resonance. It's not just your personality. It's not just that people are smiling at you all the time, or you're cool, or you're funny. I mean, that might get you so far. But let me tell you that there's a lot of people, when it comes to their money and comes to real estate and one of the biggest transactions of their life, they're not necessarily going to go with the person that makes them laugh. They're going to go with the person that
mm.
makes them feel safe. So remember that.
I I I love that, especially in
Mhm.
the relationship to relationship. I wanna add on top something that makes consistency the number one thing to go after is that same thing you're saying, consistency breeds trust, brings security, happens inside too.
Mhm.
If I'm consistent on the things that I tell Corianne she needs and wants, etc., and I consistently show up for that, I start to trust myself. And so when myself says, "Oh yeah, I can get 500 calls done this week," or "I can get 50 calls done today," I'm showing up just energetically and consciously in this place of what I tell myself I do. And then all of a sudden I start to have this security that anything that I'm dealing wheeling and dealing with myself on, I'm going to follow through on. And I love that. And if you can have that, you've got the kind of energy that will attract other people to trust you, to know,
Mhm.
like, and trust you, because you know, like, and trust yourself.
That's it. That's this week. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah,
We can put a
that's
pin
what
in
we
it right
had to
there.
share today.
Yeah, that's just who we're being. I think with us, we just this is an off the cuff conversation. We didn't have any questions planned, and that's not because Corianne and I are disorganized in any way. We almost purposely wanted to do this for our first live, just to see how we were both going to bounce off of each other, how we're going to play together. So we appreciate you all and listening and giving us your time in this entire hour. And we're open to any kind of constructive criticism or feedback. So please put that in the comments below. Let us know if this is even a topic you want to hear more about, or, we're happy to talk about this. We're also happy to talk about, business stuff, which we will as well, and the logistics. And we're also going to have some guests. I think we have a guest next week, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Exciting.
And on our YouTubes, you're going to see drops of the other 3 conversations that we haven't even posted yet. So keep a lookout for those. We've got a really fun guest on one of those as well. And I'm right now playing with live stream. That's how fresh we are. Trying to figure out how
I
to
know,
send
it's fun. Hey,
the
we're doing it. You
banners.
got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, you
It's all
do.
good.
But I'm excited for what we can bring to others. Like, it's always fun to talk to you. I would be doing this anyway. I'd be talking to you at least an hour a week, maybe 2 hours a week. And now I'm just bringing everybody else in on it because I'm always learning and so happy for the things that I'm taking away from those conversations. So
Yes.
find us on IG, drop us questions. We'll definitely be bringing those things here. And just thank you to everybody that showed up for our very first live stream.
Yeah,
We
we
appreciate you
appreciate
being
you
here.
all. More of these conversations and hopefully more business to be had with other people that we get to know, like, and trust here on YouTube. So appreciate you guys.
See you guys soon.
Be well.
Bye.
Is it on?